Folks, she had no idea they were about to lose everything. I'll get into that, then the latest home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending May 21st, 2025. A while back, I received a call from a gentleman saying, Santo, we have our principal residence, the home we're living in, we need to sell that, and we have an investment property, we need to sell that right away. So I was there right away the next day, and we're sitting at the kitchen table, and I'm getting ready to start, and I've got husband and wife with me there. Seemed like a really nice couple, and I start talking about their principal residence. I start talking about, where values are, and we came up with a price, and they were both amicable and understanding where the price was. We were all on the same page, pricing for the home that they're living in. Then I pull out my other file for the rental property, and I start to talk about that, and the wife says, oh no, actually we're not selling that property, we're selling the home we're living in, and we're going to move into that property. And the husband then jumps in and says no to his wife. He says, we've got to sell both. And he starts to explain, we got a blanket mortgage on both, we got to sell both. This was a shock to the wife. I can tell it was a shock. She had no idea. In her mind, they're selling the principal and moving in to the property that they had as an investment property. If I could just back up a little bit, he was the principal breadwinner. He had a business. For a while, the business was suffering. It wasn't producing what it used to produce. And so they needed an influx of cash. And the only way for them to get money was to have a second lender, a private mortgage on both properties, a blanket mortgage. And that's how they got the influx of money. And the wife ended up signing those mortgage papers. But the husband is the one that handled all the financing. And the wife obviously trusted him and just signed whatever documents were put in front of her. I don't want to go too much deeper into this situation that I found myself in. I really want to talk about the fact that this is not an isolated situation. In one way or another, different types of scenarios. I've been in this situation many times. The situation of one of the couples not really understanding the financial hardships that they're in because they totally trust the other couple to handle all the finances. Now, that's kind of normal in households where one of the couples handles one thing, the other person handles other things. And I'm not in any way beginning to tell you how to run your household. From experience, though, I am sharing this. It's okay. I believe one handles certain parts of the relationship and the other one handles other parts of the relationship or other parts of the household, let me say. And when there's financial pressures, it absolutely morphs into the relationship. Financial pressures put a lot of strain on a couple. If you're okay with your partner handling, say, the finances, you shouldn't be totally oblivious as to what's going on with the finances. You've got to have an idea. You've got to know what's going on. Maybe not into the day-to-day and paying all the little bills and you let the other one handle that. But any big decision, like a blanket mortgage or you're signing mortgage documents, you absolutely got to know what you're signing. And if you're the one handling all the finances and your partner trusts you, that's why you do it and you make these big decisions, and sometimes you'll make the big decisions on your own, you should take it upon yourself to explain to the other person, to your partner, what's happening. I often find when there's financial pressures on a household, they can deal with it together. They're all going to be affected, and they can deal with it. Even if it's really difficult and really hard, even if it means selling everything and losing everything and starting over, they can deal with it. What makes a bad situation exponentially worse is when one of the parties is blindsided, when they had no idea what was about to happen, when they have no idea that of what they signed, and then it comes back to bite them. So if I could just leave you with that, split up, run your household however you want. But I think it's good advice. Any of these major decisions, you let the other person kind of know what's going on. And this way, you're in it together. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. And if you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you. Or you can go directly to tsre.ca. That'll take you to my calendar. Book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. We're going to be focused on, in this show, City of Toronto only, freehold properties, detached, semis and towns. I do have condos on the board here. This is average sold prices for 3 months. And as of May 21, the difference between the average condo apartment price, which is $707, and the average detached price, which is $1,647, is $940,000. And I'm bringing it up just to show the difference. There's often a lot of talk about sell your condo, buy a freehold. The gap is really high. It's not quite that simple. Anyways, we're going to get started with the detached properties. For week ending May 21, 110 detached properties were sold. 28 of those sold at $2 million or more. And average sold price is $1,647,000. So let's talk about sales for a second. Since the beginning of the year, sales have been trending up. Not on a weekly basis. Some weeks they were down and up, but overall, it's pretty clear to see sales have been trending upwards. This week, May 21, sales took a nosedive. Only 110 were sold, where the previous week, 183 were sold. It's a big difference. But this past week, ending May 21, was part of the long weekend. And it's not an excuse, it's a reality. I've shown this many times on this show. Oftentimes, on long weekends, sales take a dip. Average sold price still do whatever they're going to do, but sales often take a dip on a weekend. Say whatever you want about that, it's a fact. Okay, so average sold price, $1,647,000. Been pretty similar the last few weeks. We've had 1,652, 1,643, 1,637. Now we're 1,647. But if we kind of look back and go back, say 2.5, 3 months, overall, average price has been overall trending down. 1,647,000 is all the detached properties sold. It's the average price of all the detached properties sold in the city of Toronto. I'm breaking it down a little further here. 3 bedrooms, 58 were sold. These are 3-bedroom houses. 58 were sold. Average price of all the 3 bedrooms sold was $1,379,000. Of the 4 bedrooms, there was 31 sold. Average sold price is $2,054,000. The difference between the average 3-bedroom house being sold and the average 4-bedroom house being sold, $675,000. Just for your information. So overall average of $1,647,000 is 4% higher than where we were this time a year ago. Now you could think, wow, that's fantastic. Sure. Usually, average sold price this year is lower than where we were this time a year ago. And if we look at the blue line, which is the average price a year ago, this week, for whatever reason, took a nosedive. So yeah, this week it's higher, but I wouldn't get used to that number. Most likely we're going to go back to negative year over year percentage in price. Median price of 1,382,000 is it's rounded. It's a 0% difference than this time a year ago. We've got the arrow pointing down saying that it's lower by 0%. Rounded it goes to 0, but it's actually a little bit lower. And if we look at the dotted line, the 4-week moving average, and again, we've got 3 months on the board here, both average price and median price over the span of 3 months or so is trending down slightly. It's not aggressive, but overall prices seem to be becoming softer. 110 were sold, 37%, little over a third sold at list price or more. Listings, man, the last 3 weeks, we've had a lot of detached properties being listed. The highest week was 3 weeks ago at 592. The second highest week, the week in second place with the most amount of listings was this current week at 567. And the third place week was just last week at 514. So there's been, just in these previous 3 weeks, lots of listings coming on the market. Active listings has been climbing on a weekly basis. We're now sitting at 2,767 detached properties for sale across the city of Toronto. And months of inventory jumped up to 5.8. But that's not realistic, I got to say. That's a product of the huge drop in sales for this 1 week. We have, though, been sitting in the mid 3.5 or so months of inventory now for 2.5 months. That's probably more realistic of where we actually are. And the 5.8 is just a product of the 1 week, the huge dip in sales. Should sales jump back up to where they were previously next week, you're going to see this month's of inventory come back in line to where we've been over the previous many weeks. So let's look at the city of Toronto as a whole, and just want to point out a few areas too. So if we say the whole city is at 5.8 last week or week ending May 21, well, you got areas like Scarborough that are sitting at 4.4 months of inventory. East York sitting at 4.9 months of inventory. High Park sitting at 5 months of inventory. Etobicoke at 4.1. And then so those areas are bringing down the months of inventory. There's other areas increasing, and this is, how we come up with our averages. Weston is 7.2, Midtown, so York Mills, Rosedale 7.2, Uptown, Willowdale, Bayview Village, 9.1 months of inventory. So if you've been focused on the market for week ending May 21 and kind of wondering what's happening, everything seems to have taken just come to almost a grinding halt. But I imagine we're going to pick back up to where we left off in the following week. Here's semi-detached properties for week ending May 21, 44 sold, which is a big drop in sales from where we were before. Average sold price is also down to $1,165,000 for semi-detached properties. $1,165,000 is 16% lower than this time a year ago. The median price of $1,060,000 is also 16% lower year over year. And months of inventory climbed up a bit to 2.9 months of inventory. Excuse me. Now, overall, it looks like for semi-detached, months of inventory has been climbing since the beginning of the year, the previous 3 months, but slightly. The jump from 2 to 2.9 could have a factor of being the long weekend, and again, sales dropped, and that shoots months of inventory up. Here's townhouses. These are freehold townhouses. For week ending May 21, 20 townhouses sold. 3 of those sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is $1,229,000. 1229, 11% higher year over year. The median price of 1236 is 24% higher year over year. Months of inventory sitting at 3.1. These are freehold townhouses. Here's a quick summary. Like in most cases, you're going to experience more of a balanced market. Now, semis and towns, a little bit more aggressive than buying a detached property, but there's far fewer sales. Detached is kind of sitting at a balanced market or the top end of a seller's market. Absolutely, for sure, that'll affect the overall average and affect what you're experiencing. It's going to be neighborhood. It's going to be price point. It's going to be home type. All that will affect whether property is going to sit there or you could find yourself competing to buy that detached property. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.